to the main event here, and that is celebrating the 15th anniversary of Little Miss Sunshine. So yeah, let's get into this. Let's talk about this. Todd, you picked the movie and you won trivia. Tell us all about Little Miss Sunshine, why you picked it, your experience with it, all that stuff.
So, Little Miss Sunshine was sort of a monster hit indie movie in 2006. It was a Sundance movie, and then it came out in the summer, and somehow it parlayed that into several Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. I didn't see it until more toward the ceremony. So, and when I saw it, it was sort of like, okay, this is like a fun comedy movie, and it was on TV a lot in the coming year or something like that. But I hadn't watched it in quite a while, and my estimation of it had sort of grown over time just because of what I remember about it. But I hadn't seen it in at least probably 6 or 7 years. So, and I had a sort of a different experience this time. I appreciated different things. The movie is about this family, the Hoovers. They live in Albuquerque, and they're going to this beauty pageant in California, and they have to go on a road trip because they don't have any money to take a plane, and they all have to be together because for varying reasons. And they are in this like really lovely, terrible like van that is the perfect thing for a dysfunctional family comedy because the van says everything about the family. And it's a fun movie. It is definitely a comedy. It has a huge heart. And it's hard to believe that this movie got a Best Picture nomination, but it's a first movie by a pair of directors. It's a first screenplay, but it's the cast that makes this movie work. Like it is one of the most impeccably casted movies of that era. Like every character, it's hard to see anybody else playing it, and I could have seen any one of them get nominations. Of course, Alan Arkin and Abigail Breslin were the two that actually did get nominated because they sort of have the flashiest roles. Yeah, but it's a really good movie. I wanted to do it because it's significant. It was the Best Picture nominee, and 2006 was one of the best formative years in my film life growing up. So
yeah, I don't think I'd seen this movie since the first time I'd watched it, and I honestly don't remember if I saw it in theaters or not. I think I may have waited to watch it until it came out on DVD, which I have to show you. I've had this DVD for a long time, and you can tell because here's the color of the DVD, and here's the color of the spine,
wow,
and so you can tell how much it's been weathered by the sun bleached on the spine there. And so one of the things that was probably more of a disadvantage for me is that I saw it after all of the buzz was out on it. Like everyone had heard about how great this movie was and how it was this indie hit and everything. And after all that, after the expectations had been built up, that's when I watched it. And I really liked it. I was just looking, I gave it 3.5 stars. It's in my top 10, which might say more about 2006 than it does about how much I liked it. Because let's see here. No, I gave it was almost a 4-star movie, my initial rating of it. So, but yeah, it's I really appreciated it this time around. I thought the things that if I remember right, the things I didn't necessarily like about it, I didn't mind as much this time. And there are some moments that are almost cartoonish, and there are some moments that are so unbelievably real and just like slice of life moments. Like the opening dinner scene is such a just slice of life. Like, have you ever seen a scene more encapsulate what it's like to be in like a house of busy people before than here's a bucket of chicken and go ahead and eat it. It just felt so normal, and it's hard to capture normal quite like that. But then there's cartoonish moments which pop up all the time too, like the ending, which is one of the things that I know, Todd, I know we've talked about it before, that is one of the more problematic parts. Is it's such a goofy ending to a movie that isn't necessarily goofy. But but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. It was great to go back and revisit it after 15 years. Um, but but yeah, Zach, how about you?
So I'm not as big a fan of it as either of you. I had it ranked number 51 on my '06 list, right in between Snakes on a Plane and Jackass number 2. Boy, that's very 2006. So yeah, I remember seeing this.
You still give it 3 stars though.
I did. Maybe not anymore, but we'll maybe talk about that. But yeah, I think one of the notable things about it for me was, I'd always commute from Eugene to Portland at the beginning of the school year. And this one came out right at the end of the summer, just as 40-Year-Old Virgin had the year before. And I remember that summer seeing 40-Year-Old Virgin, coming back to Portland and being blown away by this guy named Steve Carell and just loving it. And then 1 year later, the first movie seeing back in Portland was this movie, and just how huge Steve Carell had been in that year. Like, is there another actor that had maybe a greater 12 months in terms of their career recognition than Steve Carell from summer 2005 to summer 2006? Just tremendous growth. Anyway, I like the movie. I don't love it. I was not rooting for it at the Oscars. I still feel it's sort of a travesty that it beat out some of those other original screenplay winners. It has charm. It has a great opening 15 minutes, and it has a great trailer. I found myself kind of being surprised that I remembered as much of the movie as I did. I even remembered the part about Dwayne being colorblind. Like, I knew there was a reason why he talked later in the movie, but I couldn't quite put my finger on. Then I was like, oh yeah, it's because he discovers he's colorblind, and then he goes apeshit about it. It didn't hold up particularly well for me. We'll maybe talk about some of the reasons why. However, I was a fan of Todd's 2006 review of it on our website, which
I don't even remember what I wrote.
He lavished quite a bit of praise on it. I think
I was just looking at that too. And one of the things he said is the acting in this is the best part, or something like that, which goes to what you just said about the casting. And I don't know.
I mean, I would argue Paul Dano's rise from this movie to There Will Be Blood was similar to Steve Carell,
but Steve Carell went from being just one of the guys on the Daily Show to 40-Year-Old Virgin, The Office, and Little Miss Sunshine in 12 months.
He had Anchorman.
That's true.
Yeah, but as sort of a side character. I mean, he was, even if you look up like the trivia for this movie, the producers really weren't sure about casting him in this major of a role, right?
Well, and I was looking at it too. This was filmed in the summer of 2005, before 40-Year-Old Virgin came out, so he was still kind of not really a known entity, just kind of the side guy from Bruce Almighty and Anchorman.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had, was when was this film? Because he looks very different in this movie than he looks on season 1 of The Office. Like, he he looks at least 20 pounds slimmer in this movie than he does in The Office, and obviously he has way more facial hair. But I couldn't quite pinpoint it.
Yeah, it just said summer 2005.
Watching it this time, I was more impressed with Carell than I remember being when it actually came out. Like, because he was always like the least interesting character to me when I watched it before. But this time, I actually really appreciated what he did, and think that he might have given like a sneaky, like, Oscar-worthy performance. And he has these lines, like it said that originally they wanted like Bill Murray or Robin Williams to play this part, which would have been way too old. It would have had to be another grandparent or something, But Steve Carell, like, the lines also feel like they're written for him because of how he delivers them, and it's such a sincere character.
Okay, so he would have been in the supporting actor race. I know Paul Dano we always heap praise on, which surprisingly enough is the only member of this cast that hasn't been nominated for an Oscar, which is kind of insane to think about. The fact that he didn't get one for his dual roles in There Will Be Blood is crazy.
Or in the movie about the Beach Boys.
Love and Mercy.
Yeah.
Or Prisoners. He's really good in Prisoners too.
He's always been overlooked. Like, I mean, at this time, like, I mean, he was nominated for a Spirit Award for this movie, but other than that, like, he pretty much was ignored, and it's not an easy role to play.
So the biggest moment you could say the biggest moment of that, one of the biggest moments of that Oscars, was when Alan Arkin beat Eddie Murphy for supporting actor. Looking back at it, was it earned?
Well, I mean, between Eddie Murphy and Alan Arkin, I don't really have a problem with either one winning. I don't know that I would say. I mean, he wouldn't be my choice in the category necessarily.
You'd probably go with Jackie Earle Haley.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I was rewatching that Oscars, obviously, because of the questions that I asked, and the actor that got the most applause from the audience was Mark Wahlberg, and I think he should have won. And Rachel Weisz also had the funniest quip to say about him. She was like, and Mark Wahlberg played someone who arrested him 25 years earlier. It was pretty funny. I don't think either of these are great performances. I mean, it was kind of cool seeing an upset in a way, because I think everyone had just expected Eddie Murphy to win. But like, honestly, watching this movie again, what Alan Arkin does in this movie is like so easy. I mean, literally anyone could have done this role. Jack Nicholson, Christopher Walken, Robert Duvall, anybody.
Well, it was originally supposed to be Gene Hackman.
Well, he did it in the Royal Tenenbaums. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, but nobody makes it sound as funny as Alan Arkin because of his voice. The same thing with his character in Glengarry Glen Ross and his character in Argo. Like, those characters are high war performances because of the sound of his voice.
I think it's a lame Oscar win. I also think the screenplay win is abhorrent. That this movie beat out, as Arnold would say, Babel.
It was the indie comedy that they won the screenplay awards. Lost in Translation, Sideways, Juno, Little Miss Sunshine's what they did.
They were big into. I understand that. And actually rewatching it, I will say that I was pleasantly impressed by Michael Arnold's acceptance speech. One of my favorite things about that moment was the MC says that the factoid they give about Michael Arndt is that he had to quit his day job as Matthew Broderick's personal assistant. It's like such a random fact. I
remember that fact was thrown around all the time leading up to
that.
this.
That was like that one guy that won the Masters, who was the former cell phone salesman. Like they love throwing shit out like that. But I will say I really liked his acceptance speech watching it. He seemed genuinely humble and very appreciative. But there's no way that should have beat out Babel or Bobby or Pan's Labyrinth, or arguably one of the 5 greatest original screenplays of all time, In the Lives of Others. Not that that was nominated, but still, it's not a great win. It's like a sitcom. It's like Everybody Loves Raymond. I mean, okay, I'm just going to get it out of the way. I did not like this movie watching it again. It did not age well for me. I've never been a huge fan of this movie. I'll just put that out there. But like, this movie didn't work. It just wasn't. There wasn't really anything funny about it. So
it doesn't mean it didn't age well. It's if you didn't like it to begin with. That has nothing to do with how well it ages.
Well, but
maybe you haven't aged well, Zach.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's fair to say. But in 06, I found it more. I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. I mean, I never was big on the movie, but I at least could acknowledge that there was something charming about it.
Did Ebert like it?
Ebert, curiously enough, this was during Ebert's hiatus during his surgery, so I don't know what Ebert thought of it. Jim Emerson, I think, really liked it on his website. But the truth is, I think one thing that's kind of polluting my judgment about this movie is just how many dysfunctional family sitcoms were right around this time and afterwards, like Arrested Development, Modern Family, even Schitt's Creek. I mean, there's so much of that in this movie, and it's hard to distinguish this from being like a basically 90-minute sitcom. And that's not necessarily a fair criticism, but I can't help but think about even sitcoms today that have even done it better, but just the whole dysfunctional family on a road trip dynamic for me was just sort of derivative. And once you get past the first 15 minutes, I don't really think there's that much innovative stuff in this movie. No,
I think it's that's fair to say, but it's also not fair to think that one of the ones that started the trend doesn't hold up as well because it started the trend.
I don't think it started anything. I think it was going. I mean, it was firmly already established on TV, and I think it goes back to a long tradition, beginning with like National Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, I could see a lot of that in this movie, quite a bit. And
yeah,
like even that was a bit more cutting edge in the 1980s. The idea of profanity and kind of more adult themes and this kind of wholesome family dynamic. I mean,
Dead relative in the trunk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
She was on the roof.
Oh, she is on the roof.
the thing that redeems this movie only slightly is just how good these actors are and how fun it is watching them interact with each other. I mean, these are solid actors, and I mean, Toni Collette is very underused in this movie. I think that's one of the biggest flaws of this movie, but she has great facial expressions and reactions. Paul Dano, I think, is just really awesome in this movie. And of course, as we've talked about, seeing Steve Carrel start to play a role that was very different than the Andy and Michael Scott type roles. I mean, he should have been the Greg Kinnear character in this movie, but he wasn't, and he plays his character really, really well. And you can start seeing how he could be more of a dramatic actor in this role.
Well, and I love how Steve Carell, in his career, he's always kind of found something different to do that makes you go, huh? Like he did The Office, he did 40-Year-Old Virgin, then he does this. And then he does like Evan Almighty, but then he does Dan in Real Life. And then he goes along and does some more comedies. And
the way back is, I think, is the first time I ever consciously thought, like, wow, he really is stepping out for this one. Like, he's playing something he never did, which is like a abrasive asshole. And and he's
Greg
really
Kinnear.
good at that too.
That's the Greg Kinnear role in this movie. Like, that's another movie that almost had an identical premise. Interestingly enough, Toni Collette is also in that movie. I think they're in a relationship in that movie, right? But like, that has such a similar dynamic. I don't know. The problem for me is what makes this movie like unique or distinctive from the rest of them, outside of the fact that it got more critical praise and some Oscars.
What's weird is it came out in the summer, but I could see how at the end of the year you could be like, you know what movie I liked this year was Little Miss Sunshine, even though I hadn't seen it in like 6 months. I could see people doing that, and that just like started a steamroll of support for the movie, because if I remember right, that movie wasn't really a hit at the box office or anything. Yeah, it does have a peculiar rise over the second half of that year, or I guess since Sundance.
Yeah, I mean, it's also something that's probably clouding my judgment a little bit is the fact that this movie won 2 Oscars, arguably not deservedly so, in my opinion. Had this movie gone just as another sort of indie Fox Searchlight movie from 2006 without that kind of critical recognition, I'd probably like it more.
So it looks like here the budget was $8 million for this, and cumulative worldwide gross, when all was said and done, was $101 million for Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, that's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, $59 million.
Wouldn't have expected that
domestically.
Was that re-released probably after the Oscars, or I assume that it was?
Don't know. That's just the number IMDb gives.
I will say they played the shit out of that trailer. That was at every single movie in summer 2006 was that trailer. And the trailer was hilarious. It was one of those examples of the trailer that, I mean, a type of trailer that pretty much gave away all the funniest bits, or at least many of the funniest bits from the movie. And
especially Alan Arkin's.
Yeah, I went in really looking forward to the movie. And it just, I don't know, it was like the first 15 minutes, awesome. This was in the trailer, great. And then just kind of nothing happened the rest of the way.
So I think the first scene is really good, and I think that it picks up steam like halfway through. Then I feel like it gets really good like at a certain point. Pretty much, yeah. Maybe I guess around when Alan Arkin's character dies. After that, I think it has like a really good stretch too. I think it picks up steam later in the movie. But
watching again, Todd, because you're obviously more of a fan of this movie. Like, do you really think like Academy Award worthy performance for Alan Arkin? Like, that was the other thing that kind of bothered me. He's not really in this movie that much, and when he's in it, it's just like kind of screaming. I mean,
well, not necessarily. I mean, I just think he's really funny, and it's Alan Arkin. He was a legend. That's why he won. I don't think that necessarily anyone thought that he gave like the best performance in the category, but it is strange to think about, because like I said, at this time I liked Steve Carrel a lot more than I did before, and I've always been a big fan of Paul Dano. But Alan Arkin's the easy one to reward because he's the grandparent role, and he is vulgar, and he sounds funny.
It was a career achievement award, I think. And what's interesting, I actually heard someone else talking about this recently. If he doesn't win for this, does he win 5 years later or 6 years later for Argo?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Because that was a really wide open race anyway. And
yeah.
All former winners, and he would have been the one that wasn't.
But let's be honest. I mean, the elephant in the room is that the Oscars, the Academy was pissed that Eddie Murphy had made an Orbit. They were offended that at the time of the ceremony, people were going to theaters and watching Eddie Murphy as Norbit, and then they would associate Eddie Murphy with the Academy Awards. That's the real reason behind it.
And they nominated Norbit for an Oscar.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of it too is that this was supposed to be a battle between Eddie Murphy and Jack Nicholson, and then they didn't even give Jack Nicholson the nomination. So it was just completely opened it wide up. Who knew what was going to happen? And yeah, it was one of the bigger upsets. If I remember right, I remember hearing Eddie Murphy just left the Oscars at that point and just walked out. Fascinating. Let's get into the rest of our categories here. Highest war performance. Todd, you're first.
I'm going with Paul Dano. He made his career out of like facial expressions, and I always thought that he would have made a great Nick in The Deer Hunter, like, because he definitely has those Christopher Walken-esque elements to him. Oh. And I think Paul Dano is amazing in this movie, and it's really hard to see anyone else actually play it. I think Sonny Soljic probably could do it, but not as good as Paul Dano.
All right. I like that pick. Zach?
I'm in 100% agreement with Todd. Watching it this time, Paul Dano was the best part of this cast. He's amazing. Maybe Ezra Miller could have done it in 06, but it wouldn't have been. He would have tried so hard. The key to Paul Dano is how much he underplays everything, and a lot of young actors I think would have missed that. He's great in the movie. I think clearly the highest war performance.
The one I went with is the one that Zach mentioned earlier, being underutilized, and that's Toni Collette. I think she's amazing in this, and it's a role that she is underutilized because you could see a lot of different people doing it, but no one could do it quite like she does. And that's just kind of a testament to Toni Collette in general, I think. But that was my highest war.
I think this is a movie of very low war performances, and it's not an insult against the actors. Like, I think Toni Collette's great in the movie, but I think that role is a very low war role.
But when they're portrayed by these actors, they elevate them to being borderline iconic in some cases.
I guess, but in a movie like this, it makes the war award kind of difficult, except for Dwayne, because Dwayne is of all these characters the most unique. I don't think we've seen a lot of Dwaynes in other movies, right? Yeah. And that's so it's not just a Paul Dano, but the role itself is also like just really kind of unique and interesting and specific. Mm-hmm.
Are we supposed to think that Dwayne painted that Nietzsche painting thing on the wall? Like, because it looked like
you're
it was
not talking
like a
because of Friedrich Nietzsche.
Far out.
Far out.
How many notepads do you think Dwayne has gone through?
What, in 9 months?
I mean, he probably doesn't. 10? Well, yeah, he probably doesn't communicate a lot with his family. So, like,
yeah, I think they've just kind of.
But if he's in school, yeah. Right? Like, he's in high school. He just. How is that going to work?
I mean, it could probably work well in the pandemic, right? He could just like communicate over Zoom.
That's what I was thinking. He was distance learning.
Yeah. I think the real question is, how is he going to do it in the Air Force? Like, don't you have to basically communicate when you're on an aircraft through like the radio?
Stop once he gets in.
I'm going to say he talks whenever he's not around his family. That's what I'm going to say.
He said he hates everyone.
Everyone. All right, let's move on. Worst performance, Zach.
Shoot. Worst performance. I did so much preparation for this. I'm gonna go with who was Frank's lover that he runs into at the gas station. That guy sucked.
No choice. Justin Chilton as Josh.
Yeah. He was pretty bad. But again, I mean, it's sort of a poorly written role, but like really bland. Nothing, doesn't bring anything to the scene. Just like really unmemorable and uninteresting.
Yeah, he's like a caricature of a gay guy. He's got like his collar half flipped. He's like the frat boy douchebag almost looking guy. It's a bad role, but that was my worst performance as well.
Mine, I went with Beth Grant as pageant official Jenkins. The one that won't let them sign up. She was just like everything, and again, it was more of just a poorly written role, but everything she did was predictable, and I feel like she has played that role about 30 times, yet I have no idea when I've ever seen her before.
Well, she's Helen in Speed, of course, one of the
Oh,
all-time great
yeah.
Karens, and I feel like it's not her fault. That's just the role that she was born to play. In fact, she probably would be the second highest war performance for me in this movie because there's very few other actresses who could play that.
The next year, she was in No Country for Old Men.
Basically the same role.
Yeah, basically the same role. All right. Amazing Larry, Big Tim, High Roller Award for the best minor character. I am going to go first on this one, and there are so many good ones. I feel like we should also have like favorite. Oh, hey, they're in this moment from this movie because there's so many moments of oh, hey, they're in this. But the one I'm going to go with as my favorite minor character is Wallace Langham as Kirby, the guy who runs the tech for the Little Miss Sunshine pageant. Especially when he's the only one that's willing to applaud Olive's dance because he loves the music and he's
Except
never
for the,
going to work
like, the
with these
biker
people
dude.
again. Except for the biker dude who's like 30 seconds late. Yeah, so that one, and then the one that I was like, oh hey, they're in this, that I remember hearing, you know, Cranston's in this. I remember hearing Dean Norris is in it. But when I see Paula Newsome pop up as the woman with the papers at the hospital trying to get them to fill out everything, and I'm like, oh hey, the cop from Barry is in this. I was like,
who that was.
I was like, that's awesome.
She is great in that role.
Yeah, she was perfect, and she was again playing the exact same character she plays in Barry, basically.
Well, she said she's like a grief counselor, though. That's what she says she is. I don't know.
She was a liaison to the. She had a really specific bereavement liaison. That was
but title. it was here. But here's all the paperwork. Here's this paper. Here's this paper. Here's this paper. And it's like, well, we need to do this. And then she snaps at him. I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to do that. It's like that's that was awesome. Was like,
I didn't like her character. You got one black character in the movie, and of course, it's going to be someone who is impatient and bureaucratic.
Black yodeler.
That's true. Yeah. This movie was a little white for me, little Caucasian.
I just liked how it was. New Mexico. It was the lady from Barry. That's what I liked about it. Anyways, all right, Todd, how about you?
My favorite character is Julio Oscar Machozo as the mechanic, because he like the movie depends on moments like his moments, but he's a mechanic and he basically is like, okay, hey, you get a running start. I won't have to work on your car or get your money. I'm going to help you get out of here. So I don't, and he's awesome. Like it makes no sense why he would actually do that. And he even shakes his head when he sees them actually pull it off. He's like, I can't believe they actually did that. But I mean, he got paid nothing for that, but he is kind of a quirky little character though. I thought he was funny.
That's a good call.
He's maybe the most likable character in the movie because you're right. He goes out of his way to help them when he doesn't really need to. And he's a forthright, honest mechanic, which is pretty weird and unusual to find in movies. So there's that.
Since when are all dealerships closed on the weekends? I thought that was weird.
The shop is usually closed on the weekends.
Okay.
Not the dealership necessarily. Zach, how about you?
For me, this was the most obvious award. It is Matt Winston as the pageant MC. He sings "America the Beautiful." He gets.
Why does he sing though?
We don't know why he sings. It's kind of perfect though. He really gets into his role, and the pageant is creepy enough without him, but he just really is like icing on the cake. And I guess I want to know more about that character, but I really don't. And he probably should have been played by Jackie Earle Haley in Little Children, if you know what I mean. I mean, there's just like a really discomfort, just a vibe that is like, wow, I just didn't even want to go there with this movie. I mean, this movie, I guess like it was kind of sold, this movie, as being like more of an edgy comedy than like an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. I mean, you got stuff in here about like pedophilia, you got stuff about eating disorders and homophobia. I mean, it's definitely got some edge to it. Some of that stuff has not aged as well as some other stuff, but like that pageant MC character is just so creepy. Maybe today he could have been played by Paul Dano. That would actually be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The Riddler.
Yeah.
That is his number one most known for on IMDb, is Little Miss Sunshine pageant MC.
Probably no one wanted to cast him again. They were just too creeped out. I do love that it's America the Beautiful. That seems like the song that would be sung at beauty pageants, not the national anthem.
Yeah. All right. Todd, you're first for Stickman and Douchebag. Stickman and Billy Bat's Douchebag.
I'm doing both of them.
You're doing both.
Okay, well, the biggest Stickman is, of course, Grandpa, because, I mean, he was getting it in at Sunset Manor so much that he got third-degree burns on his Johnson. There's no other way to describe a Stickman than that. And the biggest douchebag, I mean, there's a lot. I'll go with, so when they have their first stop on the road, Greg Kinnear gets out and he gets on the phone, and then there's a semi going behind him, and the guy honks right when he sees that he's on the phone. That's what I'm going. That semi truck driver is the biggest douchebag, because that's just a dick move.
That is a good call. That is a good call. Shout out to low key favorite minor character, the random dude who lends Richard the Vespa to go find.
You think he
go find Stan Grossman?
Like, he doesn't have any money.
I don't know. All right, Zach, Stickman and Douchebag.
Okay, the biggest Stickman in this movie, obviously Grandpa. I can't really. There's really no one else. Maybe Larry Sugarman, but
damn it, that was my pick.
Grandpa's the better pick, though.
Josh, he's a Stickman. It seems like.
Okay. I was gonna go for my douchebag as Cheryl's sister, because she couldn't take Olive to the beauty pageant, even though she took her before. It seems sort of like an unkind gesture. So I don't know. Seems kind of like a douchey thing to do, especially when this family has, let's see, a patient, someone who's just attempted suicide, and a grandpa, and a son who is not talking. It seems like a lot to kind of throw at them to do this last minute.
But they had their equestrian trip already planned out in like Napa or something.
Lame. Feels like something Ron, Wendy, and the kids would do. Just kind of throw it off, and the twins would do it. Just kind of throw it off on the sibling character.
So yeah, my Stickman was Larry Sugarman. That's
a great Stickman name, though. I mean, this almost wins just on the basis of the name. By the way, I thought that Larry Sugarman was a character in a Coen Brothers movie, just like Stan Grossman was. But I was actually thinking of the character of Cy Alderman from Serious Man. Yeah. But I thought they had done 2 shout-outs to Coen Brother movies.
My biggest douchebag is the pageant MC. But I mean, you could go with some.
What's about the pageant official?
Well, yeah, you could go with that. There are several you could go with. I was also thinking of going with Jeff Mead as Biker Dad, because until I saw in the credits that he was billed as Biker Dad, I just thought he was some creepy dudes hanging out watching little kids pageants, which would be weird, but you never know. And then
I never thought that he was actually a parent. That's weird.
yeah, that he's listed as Biker Dad in the credits. And then Richard is a douchebag.
Yeah, how are we missing that? I mean,
he might be. We're all trying to come up with the cute choices, but Richard is the douchebag.
I mean, Greg Kinnear made his career off of this type of role, and this is probably the greatest douchey role that he ever had. I didn't see the movie where he invented the windshield wipers, but maybe he was a douchebag in that movie too.
Not really, but is there a douchier moment of like the last 20 years in movies than him guilting his daughter into not getting her waffles a la Modi? Because that doesn't go into his 9 steps. I mean,
the fashion a la mode.
Yeah, I mean that's like the douchiest moment like of all time, is him convincing her to not eat ice cream. because she's going to be a beauty pageant contestant. That was ridiculous. Yeah. And you could also kind of go Stan Grossman too. And just kind of the culture of that whole idea of, it's so funny because, Greg Kinnear's character is so like married to this idea of his program and this is his thing. And Stan Grossman is like, come up with something else. I mean, we gotta come up with more things, and then you get your name out there, and then you'll have your big hit. And it's like, no, this is the thing. Like, no one has just the thing. It's if you're gonna do this, you got to come up with more and more stuff so you can sell yourself. And that's what he's trying to get into. I also found it really funny how he's the motivational speaker that's trying to get people's lives together, yet the best moments of like life advice come from Grandpa and from Frank. Like Grandpa has like one of the most sincere moments is when when he doesn't get it and he comes up to him and he goes, "You try to do something different. You try to do something on your own, and even if it didn't work, I'm proud of you." And that is better than anything Greg Kinnear says in the entire movie. And then there's a moment where Frank is talking to Dwayne about Proust and how all the struggles in your life make you who you are. Because if you just skip high school, think of all the suffering you're missing, man. Yep. And I find it funny that the worst one in the entire movie at actually giving advice is the one who's trying to do it for a living. All right, what's the best scene in the movie?
Oh, the opening 15 minutes. I've already said that. Like that dinner table conversation is a great scene.
Always the chicken. Yep, that is a great scene.
Chicken, corn on the cob, salad, and Sprite.
And I like how they all have the different cups that don't match. I thought that was a good touch.
The one I wrote down was the scene where Dwayne realizes he's colorblind. And I think, and he speaks for the first time. I think that is the most like emotional, raw moment of the whole movie, and Olive fixes it just simply by going down and sitting next to him and putting her head on his shoulder, and no words need to be said. That's all that needs to happen. And I thought that's just a brilliant scene how that plays out.
Yeah, but you know what doesn't work about that scene watching again was the fact that Frank is the one who tells him, well, you can't go to flight school if you're colorblind. Like, first of all, that immediately inserts him as a nominee for biggest douche in the movie, but it also feels like something he wouldn't say. That feels like a Richard line. Why isn't Richard saying that? Like, that's such a horrible, douchey thing to say. It seems very out of character for that character.
But the thing is, Dwayne's putting that together in his own head. Like, I thought of this too, and my wife actually mentioned it as we watched it also. It's like, man, why did he say that? He didn't need to say that. I'm like, Dwayne's figuring it out, and he's looking at him with this, this means this, right? And Frank just confirms what's already rolling around in his head.
No, it's just
Frank's no BS. I mean that's where he's at the whole time.
Oh, yeah, and Dwayne is smart. Like, I mean, and Frank even says that he's like, you're not nearly as dumb as you look, you know. Because he reads like philosophy books and shit like for fun, and he's 15, but he understood right when he realized that he knew exactly what he was running into. And no, it's not lazy writing, Zach. That's what you were gonna say.
It was lazy writing. Come on, that should have gone through another draft. Like, you got to just hammer it home for the audience. Like, come on. There's a more clever way of letting the audience know that his dreams are dashed than have this character who up to this point has been entirely sympathetic to Dwayne, cut his dreams. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I thought that kind of ruined the moment.
I thought it worked.
It was a great scene.
Todd, what's your best scene?
It's the scene at the hospital with, the lady from Barry and stuff, leading into them stealing the body, which is the most like Wes Anderson kind of thing in the whole movie. It's like the sight of them like picking up the dead body and like shoving it out that little window, and like Steve Carrel looks like a Wes Anderson character doing that. Whenever he runs, I feel like he's in a Wes Anderson movie. And
You know what I thought
like,
about
like Darjeeling Limited kind of shit, you know.
When
But
I saw
I
him,
love that scene.
when I saw him run, I was reminded of Michael Cera in Superbad.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. So it's a fast kid. So are we doing the category we did last time?
If there were a
Potential
sequel,
spin-off,
what would it
prequel.
be? I think if there were a sequel, I want to see the sequel be entitled Little Miss Chili Pepper, and it be a prequel on how the hell did Olive take runner up in the regional beauty
Maybe there are only
pageant.
2 people. Those
Maybe
diet pills, right? They had to suspend.
The other one got disqualified for diet pills, but yeah, how the hell did she take second? And nobody
what was she doing? Because she hadn't even gotten her routine down yet. And so what did she do at the other contests?
She showed up. I don't know. Yeah. But that's what I want to see. Either that or just simply follow Cheryl's sister to their equestrian finals or something.
It's a terrible pick.
Todd, how about you?
Oh, it's got to be Grandpa at Sunset Manor.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's almost like the Sandpiper storyline in Better Call Saul. I mean, it's also in Albuquerque, which is kind of weird. But it also would be like the Savages, the Philip Bosco character. I would love to see what Grandpa was doing at the at Sunset Manor and what actually made him start snorting heroin. And if he actually was getting it in with all the old ladies, that'd be a fascinating movie.
Fun. Yeah, I agree 100% with Todd. I think you would have to have Blythe Danner and the late great Olympia Dukakis in the movie somewhere. But to be a little bit different, I would also say that another possible direction you could take it is the love triangle between Frank and Larry Sugarman and the grad student, Josh. But the thing is that already was a movie. It was called A Single Man with Colin Firth. That single, serious, stupid, whatever S adjective. Man. But the one where he's the gay professor of the 1960s. I mean, that basically already got made. But I guess
the female version of it was Notes on a Scandal.
That's true. Someone has died.
And also it's a little like the Grey
also
Matter
nominated for screenplay in 06.
Or Breaking Bad, but minus the gay part.
What parts?
The Grey Matter.
Oh, yeah, stuff. A little bit. Yeah, sure, yeah.
And Elliot gets all the credit, the genius grant, whatever.
Flaws, outdated conspiracy theories. I think conspiracy theory is a fascinating topic to talk about with this because you have Stan Grossman, who showed up in Fargo, which we just talked about not that long ago. And it's in Albuquerque with Bryan Cranston and Dean Norris. So, I mean, I think it's, what is it, Officer McCleary? I think you could easily say is going home and brewing some Schraderbrow in his downtime. So there are so many random little things that you could tie into this from different movies. But what did you guys have?
I don't really. I mean, for conspiracy theories, I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess like the pageant assistant lady reminded me of Scotty J in Boogie Nights with how seriously she was taking her job at going to get the contestants or whatever. She pops up in a lot of things. I know I've seen her face in a lot of stuff. I just can't actually figure out what she's actually from.
So I saw some of the parallels that Terry was talking about with with Breaking Bad. I saw with Sideways. So we have, not only is it a road movie in the Southwest, but the scene with the getting the pornos at the gas station, although not apparently this month's edition of Barely Legal. And
then Todd, you missed it. I mentioned in the trivia that Frank ordering the blue raspberry smooth slushy reminded me of Miles ordering the spinach croissant. Yeah, exactly. He said it with the same vitality.
It was a blue raspberry slushy.
Yeah.
We also have a moment in this movie that did actually make me laugh out loud. One of the few moments that I chuckled, which is when George W. Bush makes an appearance in this movie, very similar to how he made an appearance in Sideways on the TV set. And then I just thought of one, which is that Sideways and Little Miss Sunshine are the only two movies that I've ever heard of where someone refers to their dick as their Johnson. Maybe that's a little crass, but like I've never heard that used before as a euphemism for someone's penis.
What, Johnson?
Yeah, it doesn't. Remember, Jack has
Austin
the line
Powers?
like, I don't. Maybe it's been Austin Powers. I don't know. But Sideways and Little Miss Sunshine are the only movies that I can think of where it's referenced in the dialogue.
Top Gun. You haven't seen Top Gun.
That's true. Maybe there are other movies, but notable Academy Award-winning comedies from the mid 2000s. I don't think Juno ever used it.
What's the line? What's the line in Top Gun? It's like Slider's asking Goose, whose ass did you have to kiss to get in here? And he said, well, the list is long and distinguished. And Slider's response is, yeah, so's my Johnson.
See, that is not Academy Award caliber dialogue. But this movie
Powers, it's when they're using all the euphemisms, and like I think it was Clint Howard's character is Johnson. Like it looks like a long, hairy Johnson. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. No, I watching this, I thought Sideways a lot as well, in that there was something to just the tone and vibe of a mid-90s independent comedy that it made me just say they don't make movies like this anymore.
Mid-2000s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Mid-2000s. With how the score sounded, to how it was just kind of this road trip movie. Apparently, even Thomas Hayden Church was originally offered the role of Richard, and he turned it down. I saw, but it just kind of had this vibe that was very similar to a vibe you get from watching a movie like Sideways, that I never noticed before, but it just had something that mid-2000s indie comedy, dramedy thing.
Okay, but what if this movie had a different title? Because The Little Miss Sunshine is a weird title and makes it stand out. But this could have easily been called like Meet the Hoovers or something like that, and it wouldn't have gotten the same acclaim just because of the title, right? Like this is a movie because it's got a unique title. But I don't know. It's got all the same beats as like a lame 2000, summer comedy, but it's an indie movie and it's got a cool title. So
I can see that. Yeah, the title definitely plays a role in its popularity. I can see that.
One thing I also noticed one thing I thought of, like when they leave Olive at the gas station, all I could think of was in Almost Famous when they leave Jeff Beebe behind. Because like that's the whole reason why they're going, and they can't even remember her.
Oh yeah, don't mind me.
I'm easy to forget.
I'm only the lead singer.
Also, the turn radius on that Volkswagen van is just unbelievable. Like I don't know how the hell they were able to get into that hotel's parking lot. Like he whipped around at like 50, like on a dime. I was like, damn, how'd that thing not tip?
Yeah, that should have tipped several times over. All right, let's wrap this up. LVP, MVP. Todd, you're first.
LVP is, I think Dwayne would agree. Beauty contest, because life is just one beauty contest after another. And the MVP, I said it before, the casting directors, because it's just an amazing group of actors, and even finding someone like Abigail Breslin to play that part is just unbelievable. Whoever those casting directors are, yes. I should have looked it up, but I didn't.
All right, Zach, LVP, MVP.
Yeah, the LVP of this, I'll expand on Todd's a little bit. Beauty pageants such as the Academy Awards, because I would like this movie more if it just hadn't gotten any recognition by the Oscars in a year that had stronger movies. My MVP, though, is the Volkswagen van for the reasons that you guys were just saying. Like, it's iconic. It's in the poster. If you're going to like do a, Mos Def Jack Black, like, making fun of this movie or recreating it, then you have to have a yellow Volkswagen van. It's the most iconic thing about this movie. And it's definitely a character in the movie as well. And I like when the door just breaks off at the very end of it. It's like, it's just been through so much. Like,
and then the sequel said dead sprint. That was It's almost like you don't even know if he's actually going to the hotel or if he's just trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, looking at the poster behind your head right now, Todd, I'm thinking it's featured kind of in a similar spot as the bus in the Into the Wild poster.
Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy
Actually,
theory.
it was that a VW bus as well?
No, it was an actual bus.
Oh, you're right. It was an actual bus.
I was thinking the same thing for a second there, but it was an actual bus.
Can you think of another movie where there is a VW van? The only one that I can think of is it's what Bridget Fonda drives in Jackie Brown, or I guess Robert De Niro drives it, but that's where he shoots Bridget Fonda.
I think in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, they're in a van. They end up riding in a van some point. I don't know.
I want to say there's one in Forrest Gump, probably.
Mm.
That sounds right.
Familiar.
All right. My LVP is fried chicken.
Again
with the fried chicken. I think
it didn't even look good.
Yeah. And my MVP is Abigail Breslin. I was thinking about it as I was watching this. I don't even know if she deserved the Best Supporting Actress nomination. However, she's the one that makes this movie. Because this movie would be nothing if you didn't have that character that you just rooted for and you believed in 100% at the heart of it, that wants to be a beauty pageant contestant. Someone who, looking at her, you realize she is not what you look for in a beauty pageant. And she makes this movie because of that. And she's the one that gives it the heart. It is that she is the heart of the whole movie. And it's easy to forget that.
They use her enough. Like, if she was the main character, this wouldn't have won an Oscar for original screenplay or something. Like, you can't tell from the perspective of a child and be an Oscar movie, but they use her enough that she's still a main character. And you see things from her point of view at times, but she's not the one you follow necessarily. And she's unbelievable. She's one of the best child performances that I can remember.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's wrap this up. Quote of the day, Zach.
I have two quotes. I was looking up some quotes online. I was looking up some Greg Kinnear quotes, and I actually found one by Nietzsche. It was kind of curious. It was like they almost knew that maybe you were looking up Greg Kinnear because of Little Miss Sunshine. The quote by Nietzsche is, "To live is to suffer is to find some meaning in the suffering," which sounds like something that should be said in this movie. And then the quote I found from Greg Kinnear on this very same page was, "I've always thought Mexico City was incredibly dynamic."
All right.
Dynamic. Key word.
All right. Well, my quote comes from Greg Kinnear also, but it's Greg Kinnear as Richard Hoover here, and it is I think it describes this podcast in a lot of ways. It's simply sarcasm is the refuge of losers, and in that case, I think we're all pretty much losers here.
Well,
I didn't know that. Really? How much do I owe you for that little nugget?
Oh, it's on the house.
That one's on the house, bud. All right, Todd, wrap us up.
Well, and Greg Kinnear also says in the movie, which also could describe this podcast, and definitely that movie, is, all right, everyone just pretend to be normal.